Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm seeing the numbers go up, so I'll give it another minute or two for people to kind of file in. But thank you for joining our program tonight. My name is Julia Wallace. I am one of our assistant directors of admission here at Northwestern. I'm also an alum of our Medill School of Journalism, but today's not about me. I work on our outreach and access team, so we're really happy to bring you this as part of our Black History Month series. Maybe some of you joined us yesterday for the mock lecture with Professor Mary Patillo, and maybe some of you are thinking about joining us tomorrow for our current student panel and other programming that we have throughout the week. But the purposes of this kind of event is really just for you all to get to know more about Northwestern through these students and alum, or these alum who have gone through their 4 years at Northwestern and are looking at it more upon in reflection and can tell you more about where they are now in their story. So thinking about questions that you may have of what support they got at Northwestern or what types of things they were involved in, or maybe if they even had any idea of what it is they were looking to do when they started and were whatever year you may be in high school. So we really just want to make this an open discussion. Any questions you have, if there's any admissions-based questions, I can kind of get more into those at the end with just us. But if you already have like a burning hot question, we do have the Q&A function available for you to submit it. But I will have my panelists introduce themselves all first to get you a little more of a sense of who they are and maybe some of the questions you may have for them. And then we can just jump right in with the program and right in with the questions. So to start, I will have our most recent alumni, Sean Dukes, introduce himself.
Hey, you all. Nice to speak with you all tonight. My name is Sean. I use he, him pronouns, and I just graduated in 2024 from the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences at Northwestern. And I studied sociology and global health there with a minor in Spanish.
All right, I can go next. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Kayla Blaze, and I graduated 2.5 years ago in 2022 from the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. I majored in biology with a computational sciences certificate and psychology, and I minored in business. And I'm currently in med school at University of Michigan. Nice to meet you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Janae. I also graduated recently with Kayla in 2022. I went to the Medill School of Journalism. I majored in journalism and biological anthropology, a funny mix, but that's the beauty of Northwestern.
Thank you all for those wonderful introductions. Kind of the first question I will pitch to you all to get the ball rolling, since we are talking with high schoolers today. If you all could give us a little bit more information, background on where you were coming from when you were entering Northwestern, a little bit of an idea of the picture of your high school and kind of how that may be compared to Northwestern or how that transition went for you. And we can go in same order as introduction.
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm from Chicago. Shout out to any people from Chicago out there. And I went to Jones College Prep, which was one of the select enrollment high schools in Chicago, and it was pretty big, pretty diverse. It was like 2,000 students total, and it was like, um, well, I would say I'm a black student, so I would say it was like maybe 11% black, which is supposedly diverse because it was a big mix of people and a big like mix of different cultures. And that was kind of my first time interacting with something like that. So coming into Northwestern wasn't as big of a shock for me. It wasn't as big of a shock for me because I was used to diverse people already or diverse perspectives. But I will say that my perspective at Northwestern expanded even more because there were so many types of people that I hadn't met yet, some people that I hadn't interacted with yet. Um, and so that's kind of where I was coming from. I was coming from a diverse background, and so that's kind of how I came into the school.
Thanks. I can go next. I am from Michigan. I grew up in Northville, and my high school was a larger high school, like 2,500 people. It was predominantly white, and there were not many black students. So I was excited to be at Northwestern, where there were definitely a lot more in comparison to my high school, and even more than the university that I attend now. But I won't act like everybody at Northwestern is black, but it was a great experience, and there's a lot of different resources to connect with the black students on campus.
So I went to a very small private school. My graduating class was 28, so I was not used to having a lot of people. Like my school's complete opposite of Kayla's. So I was really worried about going to college just in general, just going to a really large school. My school is also like predominantly white. So I knew whatever school I went to would have more than one Black person in the class. So I think coming to Northwestern was really good for me to just be around more people. And I think I kind of had like the opposite of what a lot of people felt. I know some of my peers, like they felt like Northwestern like didn't have a lot of people of color or like wasn't that diverse. But to me, I was like, wow, there's so many other people who look like me. So I think it's really just about perspective, um, like kind of knowing how you'll anticipate the transition. But I think in terms of like academics and class sizes, like I definitely felt like Northwestern was a good size for me. Like I think it was kind of like a bigger small school. It's definitely still really small. You still get to make really personal connections with your professors and your classmates. I know like it's hard to know all 2,000 people in your class, and I definitely didn't know all 2,000 people my year, but there are like you do get to know people. Like you see their faces, you just kind of are more familiar with things. So if there's anyone out there who also goes to a really small school, don't be scared.
Thank you for that. I have a question asking for, it can apply to all of you, any or everyone can answer it. Asking if when you entered college at Northwestern, did you do what you thought you were going to do? I'm thinking maybe major-wise. Did you graduate with what you came in with, or did you change up during the way? Basically, did you think that you'd be ending up where you are when you started at Northwestern? That's a big question.
I feel like for me, it's so interesting. I ended up finishing in what I wanted to do coming in, but I took so many detours in the middle. And so I came in thinking that I wanted to do pre-med, but I wasn't sure if I also wanted a business aspect. And I was like, there's no way I can do all of it. I'm gonna have to choose at some point in time. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll just do psychology because I feel like that can be applied to both. And I actually finished being able to do all three of those things. And so I definitely, it took some time doing some planning with my counselor and getting my schedule correct, but I was able to do all of that, which was exciting in terms of major. And then in terms of my interest that I had coming into college, I was always super passionate about cooking and baking, and I was able to find ways to do those projects on campus as well in multiple facets. I can talk more about that if people have more questions, but short answer, yes, I came in doing what I wanted, but I like went the long way to do it.
I think I have a very interesting path at Northwestern. I always knew I wanted to do journalism, but I wanted to double major. So I was really interested in science. So I came in and I declared a cognitive science like second major. That only lasted a couple of months because I took one class and I didn't like it. So then I just started taking a lot of classes, and then I found anthropology. And that was really great for me. And I was also just interested in like music and the arts. So I started to join other clubs. So I joined a club called A&O Productions. It's literally my favorite organization. I helped plan a lot of concerts and do live events at Northwestern, and now I work in music. So it's very roundabout way that I've gotten here, but I think definitely being able to like try new things and just being very open-minded at Northwestern helped me find my path now. And I like didn't expect I didn't expect this at all. And I like took a lot of journalism opportunities like in college. And I loved it. I don't regret doing it, but I think it's really interesting to just see like how you find new passions and where they can take you. Because if you would ask me when I was coming in if this is what I'd be doing now, I would have said absolutely not. But I love it. So it's great.
Thank you all. We have a question from Fabiana. How did Northwestern's quarter system allow you to explore your interests and pick a possibly different major? And how easy is it to double major? I would also love if one of you could explain what the quarter system is, maybe for those who are less familiar with that system in college.
Yeah, so the quarter system is essentially when you think about like college, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with, but there's semesters. There's like semester one, semester two, typically. There's like the fall semester from, I don't know, August or September to December, and then spring from January to May. But Northwestern is different in that we have a quarter system. So it's like um, we have fall quarter, winter quarter, and spring quarter. So that allows you to kind of take uh, more classes because you have like three chances to take classes. Or to take different classes. That's kind of like an elementary way of explaining it, but hopefully kind of gives you an idea. But to answer the question, it's really easy, and especially at Northwestern, to like take to double major and to explore your different interests. So for me, I am a double. I was a double major, sociology and global health, and then I was a minor in Spanish. But before that, I was thinking about going. I was thinking about being pre med, and I was bio for a little bit. So I switched around kind of like a decent amount, but I was really able to make those changes without. It's not really hard to. All you have to do is like fill out a form. So it's really simple to do that. And I do feel like you can take so many different classes, especially your first couple of years before you like have to pick something. Um, and you can explore a whole lot of things. And then also there's just as far as interest in general, there's a whole lot of clubs you can join. I was in some music clubs, and also in like a whole lot of the Black affinity spaces that we have on campus too. So there's a whole lot of things that I was able to explore, even if I wasn't taking classes doing them.
Something else I wanted to say about the quarter system that I just kind of miss, even though we don't even have quarters or semesters in med school, it's different. But um, the average amount of classes that students would take at a time was four, which is typically less than you'd see at a semester school. But you still end up with 12 classes at the end of the year. So throughout the year, you've taken more classes than other kids at a semester school. So I think that also lends the ability to double major or switch majors. It makes it easier just because you have those extra classes to try and kind of see where you fit in and what you like.
Thank you. And speaking from where Sean kind of left us off, what were some of the organizations in general you may have been involved in on Northwestern's campus? And if any of those were Black student relevant, centered, sharing those resources as well, and kind of what Black student life looks like at Northwestern.
Yeah, so I feel like most of the orgs that I was in were like mostly Black orgs. Um, for the first thing I was in the gospel choir, NCE, Northwestern Community Ensemble. So that was a mostly Black musical organization, and it was really, really, really fun. I made most of my close, or a whole lot of my close friends there. And then in addition to that, I was in the Black mentorship program. So we have like a program that offers like uh, kind of, yeah, like it's in the name, mentorship from upperclassmen and sophomores to incoming freshmen. So you're paired with a mentor, and they kind of like help you and walk you through what it's like to be at Northwestern. And then every Sunday, like you meet up as a big group and do some fun activities. So I was in that. Those were like the two biggest things I was in, but I was also in a couple of other things as well. I'm sure one of you guys was in Blackboard or something, which is like the Black literary magazine that we have. So there's a whole lot. But yeah, I really enjoyed those, and they really made my experience.
I was also in BMP, the Black Mentorship Program. And I think that was such a great experience, like as a mentee and a mentor, just because as a mentee, like you don't know anyone on campus, so you get to meet not just other people your class year, but also like older students. And I think it's always great to just have older students as a resource, especially like going through college and trying to figure out what path is right for you. I'll also note that if there is ever like a club that you want to exist that doesn't, you can just make a club. I know so many people who started my first year, my friend started a Latin dance club, Dali Duro, and that's standing strong. We can create a club for literally anything. I remember some people made like a cappella group that is for people who can't sing, like for really bad singers. So anything is fair game.
And I will say for me, I totally want to echo what Janae said about finding mentors or just other Black students who are older than you or even younger than you that you can help mentor. That's one of my most positive experiences. I was in the Minority Association of Pre-Med Students, and I kind of made these two older students, two great Black women, my mentors, and they helped guide me through the med school application process. They helped me when I was studying for my interviews and practicing. And then not only that, but they helped me find connections within Northwestern's like medical school and the Northwestern graduate school connection. Um, And then after that, also, I was able to help be a mentor to some of the students who came after me, and we all keep in touch. We all hype each other up still and are proud to see our successes and celebrate each other even now.
Thank you all for those thoughtful responses. Maybe Kayla, can you talk more about kind of that alumni network or that support that you're talking to with having those connections at Northwestern and how that may have helped you in just resources or information, especially with your application to med school?
Absolutely. So when you graduate, or I don't know if maybe you can do it before graduation, but you also get put in contact with NUBA, which is the Northwestern like Black Alumni Association. And that is a wealth of resources. They do little meetups, at least in Michigan, where I'm from. And so you can meet people even after you graduate that way. Most people tend to be maybe not quite as recent grads of us, and so they're a little more established in their careers, but they're always ready and willing to help out students who are current students and alumni as well.
Thank you for that. I have a question from Nathan Rose. What's your favorite Northwestern tradition, and did Northwestern give you the opportunity to create connections which you maintain today? That's a great question. I love that question.
I can take this one because it kind of goes hand in hand with my answer. Um, one of my favorite traditions was painting the rock. I painted the rock, I think, like 6 times in my time at Northwestern, which is way more than most people do. So essentially, you camp out for 24 hours, and the next day you paint the rock. I did it with clubs. So I was able to really bond with the people that I was camping out with. Like, yes, it can be cold, and yes, it can suck in the little tent. But it was really fun, great bonding experience with these people. I remember vividly, I was in a tent with my friend freshman year, and a raccoon like ran past our tent, and we're screaming, and like really it was not fun at the time, but we're still really close today. So you never know who you're gonna bond over being scared of a raccoon with. Like that really brings you together. But I think it's a really fun opportunity. Like I don't even remember a lot of the bad parts about painting the rock and camping out just because it's just so much fun to be able to paint with your like people in the clubs that you're in. And it's also cool to just like walk around and see your art on the rock because it's such a central part of campus. But yeah, I think too, like student orgs and clubs are just a great way to make connections with people. I have so many great friends that I know from like being in A&O or writing on the daily, and you kind of just have a special bond from that. And I will say too, even once you graduate, people who were in those clubs that are older, like alums, they love to meet you. Like they love knowing that you were in the club that they were in 30 years ago. It's just like such a way to bond with people. So yeah, clubs are a really great way to meet people and make those connections.
Anyone else on favorite tradition or connections on campus?
I feel like my favorite tradition, you just don't realize how cool it is when it's happening, but it's the Wildcat Dash when all of like the first year students come run out on the field. Like you do it once and then it's over and you don't get to do it again because you're not a first year anymore, but it's so fun and you get to be on the field, and unless you are an athlete or you work with them, you don't really get to do that again. And I just think it's a really fun way for us to kind of uplift our freshman class instead of like picking on them or something like that. It's just really cool, really fun, and a great way to start off your year, especially because it's right after you guys have all done your kind of PA camp together. So you're really close with the people who you run across the field with, and it's just exciting. Starting college, I felt like a summer camp. And not like I was going into 4 years of school. It felt like the excited if something started, and it really was.
I agree with that. I was trying to think, and that really reminded me. I had a great time when I did the Wildcat Dash. I really enjoyed that, and just like football games in general. I mean, I'm not like a huge sports person, but whenever I would go, I just really liked um, just like the community and the culture. I was like, oh, we're all here in our purple. We get to go in free for this, and like the basketball games. I thought that was really cool to go to different sports games and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you. And I know I said earlier that this wasn't about me, but I do actually want to answer this question. A favorite campus tradition. One of them is March Through the Arch for me. That is like the first campus tradition that everyone partakes in, new students and transfers. So that is you during your orientation week, what we called Wildcat Welcome. You march. We have our marching band. Play you through our huge gridiron arch on our south end of campus. For those of you who've been able to visit, you've definitely seen it. And then that's your kind of start to college. And then at the end, you march back out the arch from the other way and to commemorate kind of that bookend experience of you entering and exiting Northwestern. And I'm surprised no one else said Dillo Day or Blowout. We're definitely a huge music production school. So Blowout is the first concert event that we have in October, typically every year on campus or around in the Chicago area. And then Dillo Day is produced by our Mayfest student organization. For those of you who don't know, we run the country's largest student-run music festival. So that's 100% run, managed by students, building the stage, contacting the artists, drawing up contracts and things like that. And that is the only day on campus where the libraries are closed. So you couldn't study even if you wanted to. It's the work hard, play hard day of the year. It's free for students and guests of your choosing, should you want to bring one. Maybe some of our panelists who have gone to a Dilla Day can kind of shout out some of the artists that they may have seen or from any music series that comes to campus. I feel like music is definitely a huge part of Northwestern community and culture.
Music is huge on campus. I who has been okay, Remy Wolf, Willow Smith, Tinashe, ASAP Ferg, lots of people. There's you could see your favorite artists at Northwestern, so it's
Offset, I have to say that Offset was there. That was really big.
Honestly, I loved seeing Sean Kingston because like we grew up with him and then he was just there. It was so fun. But Tinashe and Teyana Taylor, I think, were the best performances that I saw.
Thank you all. We have a great question from Yan. I hope I'm saying this correctly. So her question is, considering that Blackness encompasses a diaspora with a vast spectrum of experiences, very true. How well do you think Northwestern represents this diversity on campus? As a Caribbean student at an international school, I've often found myself introducing aspects of Black identity beyond an American-centric perspective. How does Northwestern create space for and support the diverse culture backgrounds within its Black student community? That is a great question and very well written.
I can start by taking this question. So my family is Haitian, and I had never met a Haitian person outside of my family until I came to Northwestern. And literally on my first day, down the hall from me was another Haitian girl. Her name's Gabby, and we are still friends to this day. We are in completely different fields. She's in like television and film. She was an RTVF major, and like I said, I'm in medicine, but we connected, we were friends. And the first thing we tried to do once we found out that we both now had a new Haitian best friend was try um, and joined one of the Caribbean dance teams. And we both just cannot dance, at least not like for sport. So we didn't end up joining the team, but I will say there are lots of places on campus to not only join the dance team, but also get some really good Caribbean food. And that was what was nice. I think at the first Black to School barbecue, which is something an event that they have every year, or it might have just been a different day, but they brought in Haitian food and it was just so fun and just such a nice reminder of different aspects that Northwestern could bring that made me feel at home and made me feel safe. But I think this is a really great question, and I want you to know Northwestern does not just lump all aspects of the Black diaspora together. There are very different individual ways to enjoy your culture.
I also dropped a link in the chat as a resource for some of those Black student orgs on campus, but I think at Northwestern we do like to recognize that the Black student experience doesn't just mean the African American student experience. So FMO, for members only, is our kind of wide all-encompassing service or club for Black identifying students, but we also have an African Student Association, understanding that there's different international students or maybe just different relationships you have with your culture and your roots and different ways to engage with that. We have like a Pan-African student group, different student groups that center on different aspects of the Black diaspora and the Black identity, understanding that our experiences are not always the same and always a monolith. So I hope you look into some of those resources and see there's a huge event Jubilee that happens in like towards spring, summer event that the African Student Association puts on. But I think within that, you'll find definitely distinctions of people in different groups and different cultures. Nigerian students may have it do a specific event on campus, different things like that, or different ways to represent, promote, and share your culture through events on campus or food we like to eat too. So a lot of different cultural orgs especially will be making different yummy treats across campus to kind of share their culture through food to other Northwestern students who may be less familiar. So thank you. That's a great question. Okay, I have a question from Fabiana. What makes Northwestern stand out in terms of career preparation and advancement? What resources do they have? This is a great question. We could talk about career advising or academic advising, different resources and things happening on campus.
Yeah, I can jump on this. I will say Northwestern career advancement, one of the greatest resources to ever exist. I was, no joke, in that office weekly. Like they are so helpful. Even when it comes to just like applying for internships or applying for fellowships, like there is someone for everything. And they're so nice, like just so nice. And they'll help you, like, even if you're just looking for opportunities and don't even know where to go, they'll point you in the right direction based on your interests. I remember too, like one day, one of the advisors was like, "Oh, you should apply for this internship," but the application was due the next day. So I met with her, I think 3 times from one day to the next, just to be able to submit my application. So they really do care, in like helping you and making sure that you're like making connections too. I remember there were a couple of opportunities that I was looking at, and the advisors would just say, "Oh, well, we know these people who work at this company, or these people who did this fellowship before, like you should reach out to them to connect." And they do a really good job of helping you meet people who were also in your shoes. And I think another really great opportunity is that a lot of companies will come do interviews at Northwestern, so you don't even have to like go out and like find these on your own. So you just show up to class or to school, and you can have an in-person interview, which is really great, especially when you're applying for a role that, you know, lots of other people are applying for. So you get to show the recruiter your face and get to have a great conversation with them. So I do think that the career opportunities are really, really special.
And really quickly, there's also a lot of, I think there's just a lot of advantages to, like, I guess, kind of being able to phase into or like easily. There's a lot of accelerator programs, different programs you can enter into as a Northwestern student that kind of help you advance your career. So right now, I'm getting my master's in public health from Northwestern, and I'll be done with it this year. And I just graduated, so it's like wow. But the thing is that I was able to do that, or I was able to get it in a year because of the accelerated public health program that I joined through Northwestern that I applied to in like my junior year. So there's a lot of opportunities like that where you can like with whatever you want to do, you can look for opportunities to accelerate or to like obtain higher education through certain opportunities. And like people are always willing to talk about um, like to talk to you about resources and ways that you can do that.
I'll also add that depending on your major or the program, you might have like an internship or a career opportunity built in. Like in Medill, we have our journalism residency. So for a quarter, you're working for a publication and you make a lot of really great connections that way. So some some programs have like a built-in internship or an opportunity where you can work and make connections. I know my first job out of college was through my JR site. So it's really important or really special to have that too. And I know there's also the Chicago Field Studies, which lets you take a quarter to work somewhere in the city. So lots of opportunities.
And I will say, somebody who like was going to another school afterwards, our pre-med advisors are really great. They meet with you, they read your personal statement, they like walk you through the steps that it takes to apply to medical school. But in addition to that, what honestly was most impactful for me, at least, was some of the community that I found through the Minority Association of Pre-Med Students. There were alumni who were at Northwestern for medical school or just who had connections there. And they did full mock interviews with us. They had questions, they sat us down, and it was so nice to have that experience before I actually had to go through it. So I would say for me, one of the most powerful things in terms of advancing a career is really the networking opportunities that Northwestern offers.
Yeah, just to drill that in one last time, I really can't understate kind of the power of the Northwestern alumni network and just the resources that we are fortunate to have and how people are more than ready, willing, and able to get you connected with those people that can get you to where the spot is you want to be. My first two internships I had once I started at Northwestern were from alum who I just dry emailed in the directory and was like, I'm a current student at Northwestern. I'm interested in what you're doing. Do you have anything open or available in that way or know someone who does? And they're always looking for ways to get involved and help current students on campus. So definitely using that to your advantage when you're an undergrad. It's never too early to kind of start building those relationships. I also do want to underscore, there's another question about kind of Black diaspora and diversity on campus, which we did answer. But I don't know how I could forget to say that a great resource to us is our location and where we are and how we're very fortunate to be outside a major city, the city of Chicago, which is a blend of cultural fusion, performance arts, food cuisines. Like there's always so much more cultural engagement that can be had off campus and into the city and taking advantage of that proximity of diverse culture, community, and again, networking, internship, building business relationships as well. We're in a great position to be able to facilitate those things for our students. So thank you for that. I also, I answered a question offline, but I want to bring that resource here in case anyone else had a similar question. Question from Oh, anonymous. What resources are there for Black students who are also part of the LGBTQ community? And how does Northwestern support their intersectional identities? I want to shout out just two quick groups to leave you with. I don't want to make this long-winded answer in respect to time, but one that you may be interested in getting connected with on campus is the Black Health and Wellness Collaborative we have that specifically works with Black students when it comes to wellness in all aspects. So that's not just emotional, mental, physical. That space is open for all students. And then we have what we call the GRSC, the gender or the GSRC. I always say it wrong. The Gender Sexuality Resource Center. Those are like two distinct different places you can go to for support on Northwestern campus. So ideally, you'd use both of those resources or as many as you can get. And I just want to also say that our psychological services on campus, that's usually a question that comes up. If you want to look more into that, they're called CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services, CAPS Northwestern, and they can help conduct different things with you on campus in terms of mental health and wellness, if that's individual therapy, group therapy, or even finding you someone who's off campus and in your network from wherever you may be coming from. So always think about those resources. Okay, I'm gonna see if there's any more questions floating in, but I do have another one for our panelists. Oh, did we get one in the chat? One second. Oh. Okay, so again, to our panelists, what is your advice, the advice that you'd give yourself or to a sophomore you in high school, very specific. What is the advice you'd give to your, let's just say, high school self, knowing what you know now about the college experience? Or in terms of, let's make it more like Northwestern specific.
That is such a heavy question. I'm going to be thinking about this for a couple days, but I would say the biggest thing that comes to mind, I guess two things. First is that I really do love the quarter system, and I was actually talking with my friend about it, who was at another school, that had an open curriculum, which means they didn't have any like distribution requirements that we have. So I feel like the quarter system and the distribution requirements really go hand in hand. If you know me, I'm a big science and math girl. I did not really care for English, did not really care for history. I put off the classes for my distribution requirements till the end, and those really ended up being some of my favorite classes. Two of the history things that I had to take for my distribution requirements were so insightful, and I learned history in a way that I had never been taught it to me before. And I realized I do actually like history. It just needs to be taught in a way that is exciting and this professor that I had also really made it a point to make sure that we read diverse authors. And that to me honestly made all the difference. And it gave me a completely different worldview to things that I had maybe already heard about before. So that's the first thing. And the second thing was I loved Dillo Day so much. I feel like everybody tells you it's going to be fun. You don't get it. It's even more fun than that because it's not just a concert, it's a concert with like 1,000 people who you know, and it's put on by people who you know, and there's so much anticipation and people like hiding who the artists are going to be and all the surprise of it. Like it's you can't look forward to it enough. But those two things.
I'm trying to think what would I tell myself with regard to the Northwestern experience, overall. I think, okay, academically, I would just tell myself to not be as stressed as I was, but also to, yeah, well, don't be not be as stressed as I was, not be as like, oh my God. Because when I got in, I was like, oh wow, like this is crazy. But I would also say to I would put more effort into my time management. I was kind of a bad time manager in high school. Like, I mean, obviously, did what I needed to do, but it was kind of like I was always like working really late unnecessarily, or like working really long. But I think time management skills like would help me in college a lot. And I don't know, I just think that's something I would prioritize. But at the same time, I would say like not to be stressed and not because stress also contributed to my poor time management skills. So I would just say like just be calm, everything will work out. And then just more generally, I would just say to my sophomore year self to just um, enjoy my high school experience. I was really nervous, just like really socially anxious in high school, but I didn't know that I would meet so many great people in college that I really identified with and that I was friends with. So I would say, yeah, to look forward to that and just to, I think, just have more confidence in high school as well.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would tell myself to be less stressed. I was so stressed. And then I got to college and like everything was as I thought it would be. Maybe not as I thought it would be, but it's so worth it. I think too, I would tell myself to just be open to things. Like I felt like I was I mean, I still am very type A, but I always had a plan and I was like, this year is going to be like this and this year is going to be like that. That's just not how things work. So I think just like telling yourself to, like, when you get to college that, sometimes things might not work out like how you planned. And maybe that's like a lot of times it's for the best. Like, it's good that I, you know, things didn't work out like how I thought they would. So I think just like being open to new opportunities and um just new things because there's a lot that you don't know that you're interested in, a lot that you don't know you want to do until you're around it. So just like being open to things.
Thank you all. I'm gonna take a few more questions. So everyone in the chat, this is your time to filter any of the last ones you may have on your mind through. But I do have one geared up from Jan. What made each of you choose Northwestern? Looking back, is there anything you regret or would do differently about your Northwestern experience? I think that's a great question. So yeah, any regrets? Or first, what made you choose Northwestern?
Well, ultimately, I think I chose Northwestern because of the quarter system. I had so many interests and I still do, but I knew I didn't want to get rid of any of them. I knew I just wanted to learn as many things as possible. So the quarter system was really great for that. And I like Medill is such a good school for journalism and I love journalism. So really happy that I made that choice. As far as regrets, I hate to be that person, but I don't think I have any. Um, I think if I could do anything differently, I think I would do things differently. I think I would like there are so many like classes and like clubs that I didn't find out about until like my junior year and like later on that I wish I knew about earlier. Like I wish I would have taken more RTVF classes. Like RTVF is radio, television, and film. And those classes always seem so fun. So I just wish I would have had the chance to take more classes in certain things or kind of wish I'd like I don't know, knew that I didn't want to be a cognitive science major when I came in. But I mean, it's one of those things where you have to try it to know that you don't want to do it. But I think that's also the beauty of Northwestern is even if you don't end up wanting to do what you thought you did, you still have the chance to find other opportunities and take new classes. And you're never limited to taking classes in one school, which is actually, I love that so much. I took a class in every single school when I was at Northwestern. So even if you are interested in music or engineering, like there are opportunities to do that no matter what your major is. So that's also a great thing.
Okay, so while Janae was answering, I actually just went back and searched through my like Google Drive to 2018 when I wrote my Why Northwestern because it's been so long since I've actually thought about what I was thinking when I was 17 years old and I applied. And it's so interesting because I feel like my favorite things about Northwestern, I didn't even know that that's what I was going to be getting. And I'm so excited and grateful for my experience. But if you ask me why I chose it then, I really felt like Northwestern had something for every part of my identity. I knew I was a baker and a chef and I wanted to join Cookology. I loved that it was near Chicago because I grew up in a small town and I was like, I'm kind of scared to be in the big city, but I like being next to the big city so I can go in as I please. Um, Back then, they had a hot cookie bar in one of the dorms. Now you only have a hot cookie bar at graduation, I think. But that's something I was excited about. But what my biggest takeaway was first of all, not only being in Evanston, which is just a great college town, but the size and the tight-knit feel and the community that I really graduated with. So I feel like what I've heard from some of my friends who are at larger schools, it feels like they had to make their campus smaller because it was just so big. And Northwestern to me never felt like that. It felt like I could fit into multiple pieces of campus. And there were so many different things that I could enjoy and be a part of and take home and take away once I ended up graduating. So for me, that was the pre-med community. That was friends that I made in different schools. I was getting to try some classes in, like, I think one of the classes I took was the history of capitalism, and then one in international political economy. And these were things that were not in my wheelhouse, but were most impactful to me today, and I was able to use them in my career later on. So yeah, if you ask me, I guess the second question was, what regrets do I have? Um, I'll answer again after Sean because I kind of agree with Janae where I'm like, I don't know if I have any, but I'll think of one.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow, I kind of almost forgot. Okay, I see it now. Okay, what made you choose Northwestern? So I chose Northwestern because honestly, I remember my why Northwestern, and I still feel like it applied the same like years later. I listed, so I'm from Chicago, and I wanted to be like far away enough from my home to like have independence, but I also wanted to be close enough where if I needed something, I can go back. I really feel like I got that from being in Evanston. And I also had heard of the strong Black community at Northwestern, and I wanted to, and the gospel choir, like I just really wanted to join that. So um, I was able to do that when I was here at Northwestern, and they were some of the best parts of my experience. And then I also just liked, I wrote about being like wanting to see the sunrise on the lake. I made sure to do that a couple of times. And that was a beautiful part of my experience. And just, I think like those are like the more, I guess, quote unquote, superficial reasons that I chose the school. And then looking back, do I regret anything? I don't think I like have, well, regret is a strong word, but I think that I would talk to more teachers. I got to do that, or like more professors. I got to do that like my senior year, like network with people, or just like see that these people are like really cool, really smart individuals that I actually like talking to and hanging out with. I would do that and like just get to know them on a more personal level. And yeah, I probably would just, as involved as I was, I would be even more involved with different clubs, different orgs. But I feel like I did a lot of the things I came there to do. So yeah.
I told you guys I would say one thing, and it's just a cop out, so I'm sorry. I regret that I did not get to study abroad, and that's because I was during COVID. So I had my trip all planned, and I was actually able to do it as part of one of the like global health sciences programs, and it was really cool. And my friend got to do it the next year, but it didn't work out in my schedule. So that's my only regret, but that's because there was a national pandemic or international.
Yeah. Okay, so last question for our panelists before we thank them for their time and their wise answers and perspectives. This is probably the most important question you'll get of the night, actually. Where was your favorite place to eat off campus? And that question's from me.
Okay, that's a hard question. That's why it's taking us so long. Okay. Um, I will give 3 because it's varied, but it makes sense. So my favorite place for breakfast is Ovo Frito. So good. They have the best breakfast burrito. My favorite place for lunch is Pono Ono Poke restaurant, and I went there more times than I can count, like way too many times. And I think my favorite place for dinner is okay, I think it's Joyi, which is a Chinese restaurant. It's so good. It's incredible.
I would absolutely say Joyi. I ate there. I was notorious for eating there about every week. So I love Joyi. And then Frida's, which is it's another brunch spot that's not over Frito, but I love their chilaquiles rancheros. So yeah, I think those are my top two favorite spots.
I'm also gonna give 3, but first I'm gonna second what Janae said about Ovo Frito, and Sean said it too, I think, but great breakfast place that I used to live right above it too. Um, the second 2 places are just things I just wish I always try to go there and then I realize I don't live in Evanston anymore, so I can't. But one of those being Tomate, which is a place with delicious burritos. And you guys, I don't think you can see Janae, but I think she realizes she missed that one. And then the other place I think was just fun for birthdays was Tapas Barcelona. It's like it's on campus. You feel like an adult when you go there. They have delicious little small plates and tapas. Um, but yeah, those are my favorites. And that was a great question, Julia. I've never been asked that before in a panel, but it's maybe the most important thing.
Absolutely. So, a round of applause for our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules and lives and all the different things they're doing right now. Thank you all for your time and your presence and answering some questions for us and getting to share a little bit more about what the Northwestern community was and continues to be for you and kind of those relationships that persist. I feel like it's good to end on and saying that on the call, like I'm friends with all these people on the call. That is the Northwestern connection and community, and through campus jobs, and Jenny and I roomed together, and Sean and I kind of work together. So just community, and we're still sustaining that 2, 3 years post graduation. So it's a great place to be and speaks to the Northwestern community. So I will let our panelists log off and give them the rest of their night back, but I will hang on for about 10-ish minutes. If there's any admissions related questions that you'd like for me to answer, we can get into some of those. Or you can choose to leave and enjoy the rest of your night. But thank you and good night, panelists. Okay, everyone. I'm going to catch up on any admissions questions that have come through. Oh, thank you all. You're so kind. Oh, there's some. Okay. I'll answer this question from Nathan first, not super admissions specific. Oh wait, sorry, that's not a question for me. That was for them. Okay, from the international student, I don't have any extracurriculars like you guys have at your high school. Do you think I should still apply as I'm still on 11th? I still have time. Can you suggest some extracurriculars I can work on? That's actually a great question. So, one important thing to know about Northwestern admissions, this does actually relate to admissions, is that we read in context of the high school that you are applying from. So your senior class in the context of your specific high school. So as an international student, our international team would review your profile, and they are the team that is most familiar with working with international profiles and schools and understanding different schools, the different cultures of their schools, and the different things that their schools have to offer, right? So we know that not all schools necessarily have the same resources and things to their disposal, so I wouldn't worry too much about what somebody at a different school is doing or has available to them that you may not have at your school, because we're going to take that in context in your review. What the first thing is that we review on your application is what's called it's your school form. So it gives us different information about the classes they offer, if those are AP, IB tracked, if they don't offer those courses, to get an idea of curriculum, things like student to teacher ratio. So we'll have an idea of kind of what your academic environment was like before we review your profile. So if you're coming from a school that doesn't offer anything like AP tracked courses, like I said, that's not something that would hurt you in the application review process, because we would see that on that little information sheet. And so that's not something that we would be looking for on your application. But so if your high school does not offer any extracurriculars, but you're still looking to get involved, to have something to write in that activities and involvement section, definitely encouraged, and definitely absolutely still apply, also to answer your first question. So anything counts as, so it doesn't have to necessarily be a school club or sports team athletics, but things that you're doing outside of your high school and making an impact in your local community can help. So if that's through service work, we have a lot of students who also work part-time jobs, and that's a responsibility that they have outside of school. So they get the credit for that, because we're seeing the hours and the responsibilities that they're putting and the time that they're putting into carrying out that work outside of school. Maybe that is sibling care or helping out with your grandparents who are elderly, different things that are going on in your life. Essentially, we just want to have a sense of, to understand the context of you as more than just an applicant based on numbers and scores on your transcript. I hope that helped clarify some things, but it is definitely not too late to find things local to you in your community outside of your high school to get involved in that way. Mhm. There's a similar question from Cat C, also about extracurriculars. How as a junior did you fill up your extracurriculars in a way that pandered to your interests school? So I'll make the note that your extracurricular involvements don't have to be directly related all the time to your intended major. Sometimes, right, your intended major may even change, so that may become irrelevant in the future. But so if you're interested in biology, right, and your school doesn't offer a biology student union club, right? That's nothing to freak out about. We just essentially want to see that you have a history of sustained involvements in some form, that you are contributing in other ways outside of your classroom. At Northwestern, we're really looking for well-rounded students. We're looking at your profile holistically at the end of the day. So we're looking at not just the impact you made in your class, but also outside of your class. So those involvements, extracurriculars, like I said early, volunteer work, working part-time, things that are offered at your school, sports, athletics, everything kind of counts, or things that you want to share that have, maybe if you had a position of leadership, those general time commitments and what your responsibilities were in that given time, to give us an idea of what else the student was responsible for and how they were able to manage their outside life and their academics, because that will be a big trait that you'll need to show in college, of not just going to your classes and doing your tests, but kind of being more independent and having navigating campus and life a little bit more independently than you're maybe used to. But are there any other questions about admissions I can take? Okay, a question, not necessarily an admissions question, as I've already applied. Oh, awesome. But at the end of, but the ethos of Anna's in our DNA really stuck out to me. I've asked various Northwestern students what the slogan means to them and if they see it as beneficial, and I'd love to hear your perspective. How do you see this idea reflected in the student experience? That's a very pensive question to end on. When I was going through Northwestern, and is in our DNA was still our slogan. Our current slogan, for those of you don't know, is, do I even know? It's so new. Something about we. But and is in our DNA, I actually really enjoyed, and I think that reflects the Northwestern student experience in saying that we are, more than one dimensional. I think what you'll find that a lot of Northwestern students have in common are varied interests, and things that maybe on paper you're like, do these make sense or not make sense to do, right? But at Northwestern, those things kind of are able to intersect. We have a very interdisciplinary model, so I think that's what kind of and is in our DNA is alluding to, because at Northwestern you can have different passions kind of come together. I would have friends that were a theater major, but on the pre-med track, right? Those weren't things that were mutually exclusive of each other, two passions that they were still able to fulfill, or journalism and physics, right? Or, you know, being in journalism and on the pre-med track because you're going to go to med school. So all those kind of different iterations and passions and dreams at Northwestern. I think the and is in our DNA and our interdisciplinary model and our quarter system are really all pillars of that foundation to kind of have Northwestern students not just put themselves in one box, but really encourage kind of getting out there and collaborating across different disciplines and across different communities. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. Thank you all for joining us again tonight for the panel. You all had great questions for our panelists. And again, another reminder that tomorrow at tomorrow at 5 Central, we will have a panel Q&A similar to this style with current Northwestern students on campus, current Black Northwestern students on campus. And then if you stay posted on our Northwestern Admissions Instagram, the official page for that, one of my student ambassadors will be doing kind of like an Instagram takeover. It'll be Valentine's Day on campus, so she'll kind of show you a look into a day in the life of a student at Northwestern on Valentine's Day. But thank you all for your time. Thank you all for your questions. Have a great evening.